There is someone who carries deep feelings for you. Their heart holds a love they have never fully released. Yet for reasons that may seem confusing, they have chosen to stay away. Before your mind starts searching for answers, pause for a moment. Take a slow breath. Allow yourself to become still. Because the message reaching you now is not arriving by accident. There are moments in life that seem ordinary on the surface, yet they carry a deeper meaning underneath. This may be one of those moments. The timing of this message matters. The words you are hearing may be touching something your heart has already known for a long time. Perhaps you have felt it quietly. Perhaps you sensed it during lonely nights. Perhaps there has always been a feeling that something remained unfinished between you and this person. Nothing about this connection feels random. Some bonds leave a mark that cannot easily be erased. Some people enter our lives and awaken emotions we never expected to feel. And sometimes, distance does not weaken those feelings. Sometimes it makes them stronger. There is a person connected to your story who continues to carry thoughts of you. Whether they are someone from your past or someone who still exists in your present, their feelings remain alive beneath the surface. They may not speak about it, they may not show it openly, but inside, their emotions continue to grow. What makes this difficult is that they do not know how to handle the depth of what they feel. The closer they feel emotionally, the more they pull away physically. The stronger the connection becomes, the more they retreat into silence. To others, their distance may look like indifference. It may appear as though they have moved on. It may seem as if they no longer care. But appearances can be misleading. Their silence carries far more emotion than anyone realizes. The truth is that you touched something deep within them. You reached a place they had carefully protected for years. A place hidden beneath old fears, disappointments, and emotional walls. Before you entered their life, they believed those walls would keep them safe. They thought distance would protect them from pain. They convinced themselves they did not need anyone too close. Then you arrived. Without trying, you changed something inside them. You awakened emotions they were not prepared to face. You showed them parts of themselves they had never fully understood. And that experience transformed them. When two people truly connect, both are changed. Neither person remains exactly the same. That is what happened here. Your presence challenged their view of themselves. You became a mirror. Not just a reflection of what they wanted in life, but also a reflection of everything they had been avoiding. You reflected their hopes. You reflected their dreams. You reflected the wounds they never fully healed. And that combination became overwhelming. The connection felt beautiful, but it also felt frightening. Because real closeness requires vulnerability, and vulnerability has never felt safe to them. Long before they met you, they learned to protect themselves emotionally. They learned to hide their fears. They learned to suppress their feelings. They learned to survive by keeping people at a distance. Then suddenly they met someone who made those defenses feel unnecessary. For the first time in a long time, they felt seen. For the first time in years, they felt understood. For the first time, they felt emotionally exposed. And while part of them loved that feeling, another part became terrified by it. You were never part of the plan they had created for their life. They expected things to remain predictable. They expected to stay in control. They expected their heart to remain guarded. Instead, everything changed. Simple conversations stayed in their mind long after they ended. Small moments became meaningful memories. Your presence brought a sense of comfort they could not explain. Even your absence carried weight. When you were not around, they felt it. When they could not talk to you, they noticed it. When distance grew between you, something inside them felt empty. That realization frightened them more than they wanted to admit, because it showed them how much power this connection held. It revealed how important you had become, and they were not ready to accept that truth. The distance you see now is not always caused by a lack of love. Sometimes it is caused by fear. Fear of losing control, fear of rejection, fear of being hurt, fear of needing someone too much. This person feels those fears deeply. Part of them wants to move closer. Part of them wants to reach out. Part of them wants to tell you everything they have been hiding. Yet another part continues to hold them back. They stand between longing and fear, between hope and doubt, between connection and self-protection. And that inner conflict has become exhausting. What many people do not realize is that distance can sometimes be a confession. Not a confession of disinterest, but a confession of insecurity. This person often questions whether they are enough. They compare themselves to the version of you they have created in their mind. And in those comparisons, they often feel inadequate. They worry about their flaws. They worry about their mistakes. They worry about the parts of themselves they wish they could change. Deep inside, they fear disappointing you. They fear bringing their unresolved struggles into a connection that feels precious. So instead of risking failure, they choose distance. Instead of risking vulnerability, they choose silence. Instead of risking rejection, they choose isolation. It feels safer, at least for a while. But safety comes with a cost. Because every day they remain silent, their feelings continue to grow. Every day they avoid the truth becomes harder to ignore. Every day they try to forget you, something reminds them of what they lost. Your memory follows them into quiet moments. It appears unexpectedly during ordinary days. It returns when they least expect it. And no distraction has been strong enough to erase it. They write messages they never send. They type long thoughts and then erase them. They stare at your name for long moments, hoping courage will suddenly appear. Again and again, they imagine reaching out. They practice conversations in their mind. They replay possible outcomes. They think about what they would say. They think about how you might respond. Yet every attempt ends the same way. Fear takes over. The same question returns. They wonder if it is already too late. They wonder if life has carried you far beyond the place where they left you. They wonder if the door that once stood open has quietly closed. They wonder if they waited too long. Even with all these fears, they cannot stop hoping. Hope remains alive inside them. It survives every doubt. It survives every excuse. It survives every day of silence. They continue wondering whether you still feel the connection. They wonder if you still notice the invisible bond beneath the quiet. They wonder if your heart still recognizes theirs. They wonder if your spirit still reaches for them during peaceful moments. Sometimes they feel certain that you are thinking about them too. Sometimes your name appears in their mind without warning. It arrives suddenly and powerfully. It feels as if something beyond logic continues pulling them toward you. No matter how hard they try to focus elsewhere, the connection remains. What frightens them most is not loving you. What frightens them most is losing you forever. The distance they created was meant to protect them. Instead, it became its own source of pain. In a strange way, they pushed away the very thing that could have helped them heal. They keep running from what their heart truly wants. They hide the feelings they most need to express. They remain silent about the words that matter most. They deny themselves the possibility of a love that could change their life. Not because the love is weak, not because the feelings are gone, but because they have never fully believed they deserve something so real. If they seem distant, it is not because they do not care. If they seem cold, it is not because they feel nothing. Those behaviors are only protection. Those behaviors are only survival habits. Long ago, they learned lessons that still influence them today. They learned that showing emotions could lead to disappointment. They learned that depending on others could lead to heartbreak. They learned that caring deeply could create pain. Because of those experiences, they built strong emotional walls. They made those walls high. They made them thick. They convinced themselves those walls were necessary. Then you entered their life, without force, without pressure, without even realizing it. You found your way through every barrier they had built. That is why they became afraid. That is why they stepped back. That is why they disappeared when feelings became stronger. Sometimes they try to rebuild those walls. Sometimes they tell themselves they should move on. Sometimes they promise themselves they will stop thinking about you. But their heart refuses to cooperate. Their heart keeps choosing you, again and again, no matter how much their mind fights for control. Deep inside, they keep waiting for the perfect moment. They tell themselves they need more time to heal, more time to improve, more time to become the person they believe they should be, more time to learn how to love without fear, more time to feel worthy. But time has become a trap. Every day of waiting creates more distance. Every day of silence creates more pressure. Every day of avoidance makes the truth harder to ignore. The future they keep imagining never arrives. They picture themselves returning with complete confidence. They imagine speaking clearly and fearlessly. They imagine knowing exactly what to say. They imagine standing before you without doubt. Yet life rarely works that way. People are not transformed overnight. Healing is not completed before love begins. Courage does not arrive all at once. Sometimes the only way forward is to move despite uncertainty. Sometimes people must take the step before they feel ready. This is the lesson they are slowly learning. They are beginning to understand that perfection is an illusion. Waiting for the perfect moment often means losing the moment entirely. They stand between two powerful forces. One force pulls them toward you. The other pulls them back into fear. The struggle continues every day. They feel something deep within urging them to move forward. At the same time, old fears continue whispering reasons to stay hidden. They are trying to hear the truth beneath all the noise. They are trying to decide what kind of life they want. A life protected by emotional walls, or a life built on honesty and connection. The decision is not easy. They think about you often. They wonder whether you have become stronger without them. They wonder whether you have finally let go. They wonder whether you still think about them at all. The possibility that you have moved on hurts them deeply. It creates a pain they rarely admit to anyone. Sometimes they would rather remain silent than risk discovering they waited too long. Sometimes self-punishment feels safer than disappointment. Yet beneath every fear, one truth remains unchanged. Their feelings never disappeared. Their love never vanished. The distance was never created because love became weaker. The distance appeared because the emotions became too powerful for them to manage. The connection felt bigger than anything they had experienced before, and instead of embracing it, they became overwhelmed by it. They are not gone forever. They are gathering strength. They are finding courage, one small piece at a time. They are fighting a private battle between fear and desire, between self-protection and vulnerability, between the familiar past and the unknown future. Slowly, they are beginning to understand something important. Silence does not protect love. Distance does not strengthen love. Avoidance does not solve fear. It only delays the truth. One day, something inside them will shift. Perhaps it will happen gradually. Perhaps it will happen all at once. But it will happen. There will come a moment when their heart becomes louder than their fears. A moment when staying away becomes more painful than taking a chance. A moment when honesty finally wins. When that moment arrives, everything changes. The separation begins to end. The silence begins to break. The walls begin to fall. And they stop running. They return fully, not halfway, not uncertain, not hiding behind excuses, but present, honest, open. Because this story is not finished, the connection remains alive, the chapter remains open. Love this deep rarely disappears. It changes, it grows, it evolves. Even during periods of silence, while you cannot always see what is happening inside them, change is taking place. Growth is happening. Awareness is growing. Understanding is developing. The distance has forced them to face themselves, and that has become one of the hardest challenges of their life. Being apart from you has exposed truths they once avoided. It has revealed fears they once ignored. It has shown them patterns they never wanted to examine. The distractions that once helped them escape are no longer working. The excuses have become weaker. The reality has become impossible to avoid. They are finally seeing themselves clearly. No one else is left to blame. No one else is left to hide behind. The truth stands directly in front of them. And the truth is simple. Life without you feels incomplete. That realization changed everything. Instead of continuing to run outward, they started looking inward. Slowly, reluctantly, carefully. They began discovering who they really are beneath the defenses. They started seeing that what they once called strength was often emotional numbness. Staying distant was not true independence. Avoiding feelings was not true power. Isolation was not true freedom. Those things helped them survive, but they did not help them truly live. Now they are beginning to understand the difference. And with that understanding comes change. Every morning they wake up carrying a weight that no longer makes sense. It follows them through the day. It stays with them during quiet moments. It reminds them of everything they tried to leave behind. And every night, before sleep finally arrives, their thoughts return to you. No matter how busy they become, no matter how many distractions they find, no matter how hard they try to focus elsewhere, their mind always circles back to you. They understand something now that they once ignored. A connection like this does not appear often in life. Some people spend years searching for what they found with you. Some never find it at all. That realization has changed the way they see everything. The distance they created no longer feels powerful. It no longer feels protective. It no longer feels wise. Instead, it feels damaging. It feels like they have been hurting the very thing they wanted to preserve. Every day they remain silent, they feel it more clearly. Every day they stay away, the connection grows stronger instead of fading. Time was supposed to weaken these feelings. Time was supposed to make moving on easier. But the opposite happened. What they hoped would disappear has only become deeper. What they hoped would fade has become impossible to ignore. Life has been teaching them a difficult lesson. Opportunities do not wait forever. Certain chances appear only once. Certain people enter our lives for reasons that cannot be explained by logic. And losing those people leaves a mark that never fully disappears. They are beginning to understand this truth. The growth happening inside them has not been easy. Every new realization came with discomfort. Every breakthrough came with pain. Every honest look at themselves forced them to face something they once avoided. Yet through that process, one understanding became stronger than fear. They cannot heal without honesty. They cannot move forward without courage. They cannot continue pretending their feelings do not exist. The fears that once controlled them are losing their power. Slowly, quietly, one day at a time. Their heart is becoming stronger. Their confidence is growing. The silence that once felt comfortable is beginning to crack. The distance that once felt necessary is becoming harder to maintain. Something important is changing inside them. A turning point is approaching. They can feel it. The version of themselves that kept running is becoming exhausted. The version that wants truth is becoming stronger. Soon, they will stop looking away. Soon, they will stop hiding. Soon, they will face everything they spent so long avoiding. And when that moment comes, it will not happen with confusion. It will happen with clarity. It will happen with honesty. It will happen with the kind of understanding that only comes after a long personal struggle. Because what they feel for you has never been temporary. It is not a passing attraction. It is not a fantasy. It is not something created by loneliness. It is something deeper, something that continues existing even through silence, something that survives distance, something that survives time. The bond remains, the connection remains, the feeling remains. What once felt safe is now becoming unbearable. The silence they depended on is growing heavy. The distance they trusted is beginning to feel like a prison. Every day apart feels longer than the day before. Every attempt to act unaffected requires more effort. Every excuse they created is losing its strength. What they pushed down keeps rising back to the surface. What they tried to ignore keeps demanding attention. What they hoped would disappear now stands directly in front of them. They feel the shift happening. They sense the change. They recognize the ending of every excuse that once allowed them to stay hidden. There comes a point in every transformation when staying the same becomes more painful than changing. They have reached that point. Their mind is tired. Their heart is tired. The battle inside them has lasted too long. They are beginning to see that distance has not protected them at all. Instead, it has cost them valuable pieces of themselves. It has stolen moments they can never recover. It has taken time they cannot get back. When the noise of life finally becomes quiet, they find themselves thinking of you without warning. Sometimes your name appears in their mind before they even realize it. Sometimes memories arrive suddenly and completely. A laugh, a conversation, a look, a moment they thought they had forgotten. They find themselves reaching for their phone. They find themselves staring at old memories. They find themselves wishing they had spoken differently, wishing they had acted differently, wishing they had chosen courage instead of fear. Looking back, they can see what they could not see before. They moved away from someone who truly understood them, someone who accepted them, someone who made them feel seen, someone who helped them feel known in a way few people ever experience. That realization stays with them. It follows them everywhere. They think about unfinished conversations. They think about feelings left unspoken. They think about moments that deserved more honesty. Sometimes they imagine reaching out. The idea frightens them, but it also comforts them, because deep down, reaching out feels right. They wonder what would happen if they finally closed the distance. They wonder if your voice would still bring them peace. They wonder if your smile would still feel familiar. They wonder if your heart would still recognize theirs. They wonder if there is still space for them in your life, or if too much time has passed. The battle between fear and regret continues. Yet something important has changed. Regret is beginning to feel heavier. Fear is beginning to feel smaller. They are starting to notice a painful truth. Every time they silence their feelings, they hurt themselves. Every time they choose distance, they create more suffering. Every time they deny what they feel, they move further away from who they truly are. They are tired of carrying endless questions. They are tired of wondering what could have happened. They are tired of imagining different outcomes. They are tired of living with uncertainty. They have spent too much time existing halfway between action and avoidance. Too much time standing still. Too much time watching life pass by. Even from a distance, they continue looking for signs of you. They pay attention to small details. They notice things that remind them of you. They search for evidence that the connection still exists. Some days they feel certain that you still think about them. Other days, doubt returns. Other days they worry they have become only a memory. Yet the pull never leaves. The connection remains. No matter what they tell themselves, no matter how much time passes, no matter how far they go, something continues drawing them back. They are beginning to understand a truth they once resisted. Some connections cannot be replaced. Some bonds cannot be copied. Some people leave a permanent mark on the soul. Running away does not erase that. Ignoring it does not erase that. Distance does not erase that. The more they try to escape it, the more clearly they see it. Life has shown them enough empty days to understand something important. Safety is not always peace. Avoidance is not always protection. Sometimes what feels safe slowly becomes its own form of pain. The universe has been placing reminders in their path. Unexpected moments, meaningful coincidences, memories appearing at strange times, lessons arriving exactly when needed, each one pushing them toward the same realization. They cannot continue living without the truth. The possibility of losing you completely has become harder to accept than the fear of vulnerability. That realization is changing everything. The movement from distance to return is already beginning. Not all at once, not dramatically, but steadily. The walls are weakening. The fear is weakening. The resistance is weakening. And something stronger is taking its place. Hope, courage, honesty. Healing is finally happening because they have stopped running from themselves. They are allowing themselves to be seen. They are allowing themselves to feel. They are allowing themselves to accept the truth. They imagine the day they finally return. They imagine speaking honestly. They imagine no longer hiding. They imagine finally expressing everything they kept buried. The words feel closer now than ever before. The truth feels closer now than ever before. They understand something clearly. You cannot be replaced. The impact you had on their life cannot be replaced. The part of their spirit that awakened because of you cannot return to sleep. And now they know that waiting any longer carries its own danger. The danger of permanent regret. The danger of missing what matters most. That fear has become stronger than their fear of vulnerability. Every morning without you reminds them of what fear once cost them. Every night reminds them that silence never solved anything. Distance did not make the feelings weaker. It made them stronger. It made them more patient. It made them more certain. What they once thought would help them forget only made them understand your value more deeply. And that understanding continues growing. The return is becoming inevitable. Not because life is perfect, not because fear is completely gone, but because love has finally become stronger than avoidance. When they stand before you again, they will not come as someone hiding behind excuses. They will come with honesty. They will come with clarity. They will come with a heart that has learned difficult lessons, and they will finally choose the risk of real connection over the illusion of safety that comes from being alone.